Welcome back to Kai, train, play, recover, go home. I want you in cotton wool until May. So it happened. Arsenal made 0 first-team signings in a sepulchrally quiet January window, despite a few hopeful moments. That's right, sepulchrally. New word. Arteta put on a brave face in his presser before Newcastle with his usual "I am focused on who I have here" stuff, but he did admit he was disappointed, and I suspect internally a few stern words were had. I couldn't believe we weren't going to do anything right up until the morning of the deadline, but we didn't. We didn't even get a new left-back. Something must have really gone wrong. I don't know if we beat Newcastle or not as of recording, but nothing changes really if it was 5-0 either way. We are a properly good team, playing without our best player, unbeaten since October in the league, who also just slapped the reigning champions, who've spent 200 million euros on their squad and are helmed by the greatest manager of all time, who, by the way, thinks we are the most solid team in all departments in the world. But that makes it, in many ways, almost more frustrating that we didn't, in that window, put ourselves in the best position to go out and win something this year. Because we are so capable. I'm going to keep the tone light. I'm going to go through and talk about the benefits and drawbacks. I'm going to try and triangulate information and make sense of this window, but I don't want that to necessarily be mistaken for tacit approval of anything. Maybe you're personally angry, maybe you're not. I'll share my feelings as we go. If you're not disappointed, I would say, literally the coach is disappointed, so well done you, Zen Master. But regardless, a lot of Arsenal fans are angry and disappointed. So, are they right to be? Strap in. We've got 3 chapters to get through. Chapter 1, it's okay to be annoyed. A lot of the logic for Arsenal not making a signing in this window was, okay, fine, we want a signing, but who improves our ceiling, who's available this January, and wouldn't be a massive overpay? And to be fair. Are the top tier Isak, Leao type talents we all feel we need to take the forward areas to that next level moving in January? The manager himself said many times he didn't just want a body, quote, and when you're nearing the top of elite football, it's very, very hard, especially in a January window, to get guys who actually raise your ceiling. Doesn't matter how much you want them, they're just not moving. But at some point after the Saka and especially the Jesus injuries, I think we moved into a different conversation. It's no longer about ceiling raisers. I'm not expecting Isak in January, and I don't think many people are. It's about supporting your now overburdened staff. Kai Havertz has played 2,686 minutes already so far this season, pre-Newcastle. That is 71% already of his 3,827 minutes from last year, with over a third of the Premier League season and a potential UEFA Champions League run to go, all post-Euros. Arteta's doing his, wow, he's so robust gimmick to give us some hope, but if he picks up an injury, Arsenal do not have a recognised centre-forward to replace him. Whatever way you slice it, that is a big gamble. Trossard's played there a few times. Ethan, we've talked about him there. Gabby Martinelli, maybe. We could get by, but we're aiming for the biggest prizes in football. I don't want to get by. I want to win. On the wings, we have Martinelli, Trossard, Sterling, and Ethan. Technically a midfielder, but I'll count it, till Saka's return. 3 players stronger on the left, by the way. Maybe you think, that's 4 options. That's not bad. And I guess it comes down to how much you rate the players. But realistically, we have a child unable to change in the same room as his teammates currently, Sterling, who isn't good enough, I'm sorry, and the other 2 who are physically on the edge of burnout. Trossard has just 223 minutes to go to match his minutes tally from last season, and Martinelli has 299. 3 more games each, basically, and it's early February. One of the reasons we beat City was the incredible work rate of our wingers. I don't love Martinelli at right wing, but he was electric that day, recovering like mad. The minutes aren't sustainable, but also the intensity of what they're doing isn't sustainable. And by March or April, I worry. We talk about Saka returning, but we don't know when that's going to happen, and we're expecting a lot for him to immediately return with no setbacks and hit the ground running at the level we expect. And when he comes back, even if he is miraculously at the same level, he might only have 8 or 9 Premier League games to affect anything. Look, maybe you're optimistic, it all works out. No one gets injured, everyone's fine. We drive off into the sunset with a Premier League title under our arms and a cold one on our lips. But if that's how you feel, based on how this season has gone so far, 2 of whatever you're having, please. Be honest, we've gambled on our fitness. We've lost 2 top-level first-team forwards who played nearly 9,000 minutes combined over the last season and a half and not replaced them. Thousands of minutes to go elsewhere, an incredibly intense out-of-possession team. But forget my opinion, people at the club feel there was a need for more numbers. Mikel literally said it, and we know we looked at Watkins, Morata, Šeško and more this winter. Kieran Tierney, left wing shifts, anyone? I happen to think there was the right quality available this window to raise our level, to fix our skills gap that I've spoken about before, in Mbeumo, Nico Williams, whoever you want to talk about. But that's not what I'm debating. Depth was out there. Whether it was a overseas loan or a low-risk purchase or whatever it might be, depth was there. I think it's borderline arrogant to look around the rest of the footballing world and sneer and say, yeah, none of you could take any minutes off our players for 6 months. Of course they could. 3-time UCL winning Marco Asensio couldn't rotate with Trossard, could he? And when you look at teams like City, Villa, Spurs, they're addressing holes in their squad that they openly admit that they left. Not even spending big money in some cases, just making use of loans, bringing business forward, while we're leaving a lot more to chance. There is such a thing, I believe, as weaponized sensibleness, or maybe toxic positivity. Come on, be reasonable. Who was out there? This isn't FIFA. I've kind of been that guy before, right? That might be a valid response to the quality question. Who was there to raise our ceiling? I actually agree with you. It's not a valid response to the depth problem. It's okay to admit we left ourselves vulnerable. Doesn't mean you hate Arsenal. It doesn't mean you don't support them. It doesn't mean I'm going to go do an explosive rant on AFTV and call out Gunnosaurus and win for a scrap. Sensible, if you agree, channels like this have to be honest as well. Chapter 2. What just happened? I think most people are pretty resilient. No matter the scenario, they can come to terms with bad outcomes and things not going their way, all sorts of things, if, crucially, they can make sense of it. It gives you a plan in some ways. Okay, that didn't work out for that reason. Now let's do this next time. But I'll be totally real. I have no sense of what happened in that window. I don't understand it. It's left cracks and spaces where misinterpretation can rush in. Ultimately, Arsenal haven't controlled the narrative. I can make an educated guess that we're broadly waiting for our long-term targets. Arteta has alluded to that, but that's not consistent with all the actions in the window. I'm sure Edu leaving has a lot to do with it, but last summer I made this video expressing my confusion at the lack of joined-up thinking when he was there, and I feel the same again now. Some of this is reporting, so pinch of salt, but it is The Athletic. Some of this is just fact, but however you spin it, all of the following things can't exist at the same time if they are true. Arteta is keen to stress he's happy with the discipline we showed in the window on Tuesday, but he's playing Tierney at left wing and telling us we're short numbers-wise. Rice said he's sure the club will do something on TNT. We don't. We're offered Watkins, who Arteta reportedly jumps at, so we talk. But somewhere on the chain, someone doesn't like the price. We have a conversation about Morata, but hesitate, so Galatasaray get there first. But Arteta is saying we don't just want bodies. Is Morata a ceiling raiser? We're told we're not thinking about cancelling Sterling or Neto's loan deals, but we ask about Joan Garcia when we're in Spain. We speak to Šeško again, having been told last summer he won't move. Edu goes a few months before the January window, very inconvenient time, but we're told publicly it's with best wishes and a decision they support. We hear Mikel talk about box efficiency and the board's concerns about X Factor before the last summer window, but don't address either in the next 2 consecutive windows. We have conversations about Vitor Rice and Sfere Naipan and our quote, prioritising the future at a meeting in LA in November, fine, but no future signings happen. We speak to Tell, but it goes no further. We nearly recall Fabio Vieira before the window starts, but decide against it. And probably lots more, I and you don't know. Look, I don't pretend to know anything. I don't know what happened in the boardroom. I'm sure a lot of that could be explained. And maybe not all that information is correct. Who knows? But does it not feel like there is a disconnect somewhere between the manager, the board, some members of staff, maybe the players? In fact, I think it might be the only thing that can explain some of those things coexisting. A lot of it feels reactionary, competing objectives, a lack of unity, which actually isn't very Arsenal in the last few years, certainly. The Ollie Watkins thing felt very un-Arsenal. But I don't just want to complain, I want to offer solutions. And a way to fix this is actually something they do very well in American sports: communication. Many will look to Arteta, but the likes of Richard Garlick, Jason Ito, Josh Kroenke, James King, and so on are the guys having the money and deal conversations. Arteta can identify, approve, speak, but he isn't in negotiations asking for account numbers and sort codes. We need clarity on what we're doing, not just from reading between the lines of Arteta trying not to get himself in trouble in a presser, a bit like how a general manager might do in the NBA. People can get behind a vision if you present it to them. They can process disappointment. Even if it's a vision they don't agree with, at least you're telling them something. Look at Villa right now, so aligned behind a project because they're communicating on the same page to the fans. But if you don't do that, that empty space can get filled with conspiracy, rage, and guesswork. And that's not really good for anyone because eventually that gets back to the stadium. And we know how much work they do trying to help the energy at the Emirates. Chapter 3. The future isn't always bright. I've been speculating a lot in this video, but the following makes the most sense to me, at least. We are long-term thinkers, generally top-down. We jumped at a few short-term solutions this window. The Jesus injury spooked us. A few opportunities came up, but we shied away in the end. There is a bit of misalignment because Mikel and the coaching staff understandably want help, but in the end, the club's decision makers overall felt there was little quality or depth out there that was consistent with a long-term plan. We're heavily focused on the perfect players for us that everyone agrees on, and they'll come in the summer. I'd like to hear that communicated. I don't agree on the depth issue, but okay, fine. You can also literally sell or loan players, which I think the club forgets sometimes, but okay. I still have concerns. Waiting around for long-term targets doesn't always work the way you'd hope. It might sound the most sensible, stability, plan for the future, stay in school, kids, don't do drugs. But is it always? TDK does not encourage drugs, okay? On that, it's only fair to look at how well the likes of Rice and Raya, even Jorginho, have worked out at the club with that strategy. Clearly long-term targets at the club that, in fairness, we waited for and it's worked out with. Credit to the club for that. But that isn't the only way to get where you're going. Because what about when it doesn't work out? As it kind of hasn't with a few. Calafiori, clearly a long-term target we went and did. And we spawned Miles at the academy. Who could have called that when we first had a look at Calafiori and Miles was probably 10 or whatever he was? Calafiori will play. I'm not worried about him long-term. But short-term, is that the best use of resources? But short-term, is that the best use of resources and time that we could have done in that summer window? It's open to debate. Jurriën Timber, long-term target, now working out, yep. But does his ACL game 1 of 2023-24? If that happens with your long-term attacking solution, let's say Isak, God forbid, I don't want to put this out in the universe, game 1, 2025-26, he does his ACL, what do? Just wait? Raheem Sterling, long-termism personified, the surest bet of all, hasn't worked out. It happens. Not trying to catastrophize, just giving examples that things don't always work out in the way you expect. The player might not settle, the team dynamics can change, the trends of football can change, an academy player might come up, and you've missed out on some brilliant mid-term and short-term options that you can sell that might win you something by purely thinking in 5-year plans. Long-termism is an important part of a plan, but you have to be agile. If you're looking to move house in 2026, but the perfect house is available this summer for 50k under the asking price because the owner wants to sell this year, do you just not do it? The future is very often not what we expect. Go back and look at any predicted England 11 from about 10 years ago, and you'll see what I mean. So when there are opportunities there, and you can solve potentially short, middle, and long-term issues, why not do it? And it's not just for fan dopamine. I mean, it would be fun as well to get a signing. But this solves issues because when you look ahead to the summer, there's potentially a lot to do. Let's just take the forward areas. Maybe Isak is the one. We're full steam ahead for him, especially if Newcastle don't get UCL. Okay, but Sterling's gone. Jesus isn't back till 2026 probably. And I wouldn't be surprised if one or both of Martinelli and Trossard are agitating this summer because I doubt Martinelli will sign a new deal right now. And I doubt Trossard will be offered a long deal at his age. That leaves us with Saka and Havertz as our forwards. And if we're signing a centre forward, is Havertz pushed back? So just Saka? That won't all happen. I'm slightly exaggerating. But my point is, Arsenal will probably need almost certainly 2, if not 3 forwards this summer, depending on what happens with Reece Nelson and Sales and so on. So, does it not make sense when you have an issue in January to push forward some of that work? You add your depth now instead of what you were planning to do in the summer, and you save yourself a job. The high potential, versatile forward. Maybe you do overpay, but you also solve an issue. Oh, but there was no one out there. Look, I've given lists time and time and time again. I don't want to bore people, but just quickly. Objectively, Durant, Marmoush, Kvaratskhelia, Galeno, Marlon, Xavi Simons, Luis Enrique, Tel, Asensio, Jimenez, Wahi, and more all moved. Again, we're not even talking the ceiling raisers. Plus the players that get potentially disrupted when those moves happen, like Kvaratskhelia and Dembele are on the wings at PSG, so what's happening with Barcola? Plus the hundreds of names we've spoken about, like Mbeumo and Nico Williams. Plus the, I'm sure, literally hundreds of names I don't even know about, because I'm a YouTuber, not a professional scout. I don't care who you go for. I care if you leave yourself short and give yourself a massive to-do list in the summer. In one of the busiest January windows in a while, with the market, and specifically the forward market, very active, it's hard to take. I suspect the progress of Miles and Ethan has impacted things, and that's fair enough on some level. I don't think the Cronkies are throwing the season, and I still have faith in them. I just think they've taken a gamble. But this constant future prioritization, this long-term vision stuff, we do need to be careful, ironically, long-term. For me, this is a red mark on the Cronkies' record. They've done a lot of great work, and it's okay that they've made a mistake, in my opinion, along with probably lots of other members of staff at the club. I think Arsenal fans, on the basis of those 3 chapters, have a right to be pretty angry. We can be hopeful, we're a brilliant top-level team, who knows what happens? It's football, right? But we've gambled, as I say. I only hope it doesn't bite us in the bum by, or maybe even before, the end of the season.
If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon monthly, or you can buy us a coffee.